Hey guys, Danny Johnson here, and today we're going to put a new clock spring in. And so I'll show you that. The first part is going to be removing the steering wheel so that we can get to it. And so you will need a puller and some things. So stay tuned here and I'll show you what we need to do. Okay, so very important, since we are working with the airbag, we're going to remove the battery terminals. I'm going to remove both just to be extra safe. And these are normally just an 8mm bolt that you'll remove, and this one's aftermarket, it's a 10. So I already loosened up this side, so our negative side is, we're just going to pull off and tuck down in here where it won't make contact. And so anyway, you just want to disconnect this and then move it out of the way as well. Okay, so both of these, the negative and positive, are disconnected and out of the way. And we are going to be using a steering wheel puller set. I have used another puller in the past, so there are other ways of getting it done, but this is the kit that we'll be using. Okay, so to remove the airbag, we're going to come around on each side and find these covers. And you're just going to take a flathead screwdriver and very gently just go in behind it and pry these off. And now we're going to remove that 8mm bolt. And so, there's another one on the other side. Okay, so now on both sides we're just coming in with our 8mm socket and taking these two bolts out, one on each side. Okay, so with both of these out now on each side, you can just lift the airbag away. And then now we're going to unplug it on the back. There's a connector right here. Okay, so for the airbag connector, you're just going to pinch that tab right there. And so as you pinch it, then you can slide it out. So as you can see, we just pinched that down and slid it out. So now the airbag is free. Okay, next we're going to go after the cruise control switch. So as you can see where I put the screwdriver in here, there's just a little tab that we're pushing down on. As you push down on that, then you can pull the plug away from itself. Okay, so here it is coming apart. So once again, just had to pull down on that tab. Next, we're taking our T50 Torx, and we're going to remove this center bolt that's right in the steering wheel. So make sure you get that one in good, and then just loosen that, of course, by breaking it counterclockwise. And then just remove this bolt all the way. Okay, so remove that out of the way. Okay, so next we're going to take our tool, and this is how it's set up. And we have that cone fitting on the front of it. The Craftsman kit actually didn't work because it hit the back of the steering wheel. It was too big. So this one's small enough, as you can see, it will go down into that thread there and push against it. Okay, and so now that we have this set up, we're going to put this here, and then we're going to run our bolts into that thread that's right there on the other side here, and then into the bottom one. Okay, but you have to have this in place first, and then run the bolts in. Okay, so we're running our first bolt in here, and you want to make sure that it's easy to turn. If it's not easy to turn, you might have the right size but the wrong threads, and that can really strip these out, and then you can't get the steering wheel off unless you use a different puller, which I have had to do in the past. But anyway, once you get that first bolt in there, then you'll come down and drive the second one in right through here. And so you have to have the tool lined up first before you can thread these ones, otherwise you won't get the tool on. Okay, so once this one's tight and that one's tight, now you'll start to crank this clockwise and it will start to drive into the middle there, and eventually it'll contact these two bolts. So as this is screwing inward, the puller is going this way. So when you're sure that these are tight, because you don't want to have it pull the threads right out and strip it, once those are tight and then this is tight and in its position, now we're just going to keep cranking this and it will pull the steering wheel off. Okay, so now we're ready to start cranking on this. So we just have our, in this case it's a 15mm, depends on the puller size kit. And so we're going to hold the steering wheel still, and then we're just going to crank this, and as we tighten it, it'll pull the steering wheel off. Okay, it really didn't take too many rotations on that before we popped this off. And so now the steering wheel is free. So you're going to take a cross point or Phillips screwdriver, and from the bottom side here, this is outside the car so it's a little easier here, you're just going to have to crawl under the dash there, and you're going to take out these 4 screws that hold the column bezel together. So once you remove all of these, the 2 pieces will just separate from each other. So as you can see, you can just pull the bottom part away from the top, and the bottom part has the steering wheel angle rod that's coming through, so you just got to worm it out of there. And then the top one as well, just kind of maneuver it until you can get it off of there as well. Okay, so for the clock spring, to take this part of it off is really simple. You're just going to take a screwdriver, you're going to put it on this little orange piece right here, and as you do that, it will slide off. Okay, now, however, it's still connected through a bunch of wires here. So on the bottom side of the column, as you can see here, and this part kind of came apart, so just imagine that it's still together. So next you're going to need a T20 Torx, okay, so don't just use a cross point screwdriver, you don't want to strip this out, it has to be the Torx bit. But on the bottom part here, there's a little gold screw here to remove, just to get this out of the way. Now it's part of the lock assembly here, so that might still be on there if you're trying to get it off, but we just need to get this yellow wire out. So over here, at the very bottom, you're going to have this to unplug. So you'll unplug it and then pry it out. It's just got some Christmas tree style clips here. Okay, so we've popped that one up. Okay, so we just popped this up and out here. This right here is just a loop. See how it opens? So you're going to unloop it. So we're just pulling out this yellow wire here. Okay, and so this one too, same thing, you just open it up and unloop it. And so now here's the other part of our clock spring wiring, and we're just going to slide this off. Okay, that was just on there. So that's what holds this clock spring assembly together. So with the new one, you're just going to run it right back on there. You're going to put it on here on the front, and just make sure that this wiring goes back here, back into that loop, back into this loop. Okay, we're going to put our plug back down here. Just Christmas tree snap into place there, and your new ignition piece here that just slides on there. Okay, then this harness just kind of goes back here. This goes over the key cylinder part. Okay, and then the screw back in there. Okay, so we just then put our new steering wheel back on. We put our connections coming through the hole over here. And now we're just going to reconnect our cruise control just by plugging it back in. And then we'll put our airbag back on. So we did tighten down this T50 Torx again as tight as we could and made sure the steering wheel was straight. It is clocked to where the steering wheel only goes on one way again, but there is still some play in it. So you just kind of need to set it straight and then tighten it down the best that you can. And so now we'll just lift the airbag and put it back in. Okay, so we just plugged the airbag connection back in, and now we're just setting the airbag back into its place. And we'll put those 8mm bolts back in the sides. Just remember, make sure that the battery is disconnected for this, and make sure nobody is behind the steering wheel when you plug the battery back in, just in case it were to fire. Okay, so we tightened it down on that side and on this side, those 8mm bolts. Now we're just gonna put our clips back in. Okay, and these just pop back in, one on each side. Okay, so reconnect your battery terminals and then just make sure that nothing popped in here. Your gauges may cycle like that if the battery's been disconnected. And make sure that airbag light goes off. You're good to go.